Gulzar Saab, I was born in the Slough area, where I'm now the Member of Parliament for. I spent a few years, my formative years were in Slough when my parents lived there. They bought their first ever house in the UK, which was in Slough in the Chalvey area. My dad used to work at the Ford factory there locally, and my mum worked at a petrol pump company on Farnham Road there. But then, when I was four, my parents decided that they wanted me to go to the Punjab, and that is where I studied for just over 4 years. And that is because they wanted me to get the best of both worlds, both the Punjabi culture, the traditions, the history, also to make sure that those links were formed with relatives out there as well. So that cultural aspect was derived, I think, to a huge part by having lived in the Punjab in India for about 4.5 years. I then came back when I was age 9. Then we moved to a town called Gravesend in Kent. So that's where I did my secondary schooling as well. And then from Kent, I moved on to university. And I actually, after university, my aim in life wasn't to become an MP, it was actually to run my own small business. I wanted to follow in my parents' footsteps, whom from very humble beginnings had gone on to set up their own small construction business, run out of our garage. So I went off to Bonnie, Scotland, and set up the construction company, and that is where I was for 3 years, and then I moved back down south. But construction is what I've been involved in for the last 20 odd years before becoming a member of parliament. So that's been my journey before becoming an MP. Well, look, my education has been very varied. So, my undergraduate degree was actually in mathematics with management studies. So, I loved maths. That was my favorite subject. In fact, I love modern languages as well. So, I learned 8 different languages, including Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu, French, German, Latin, Italian, and a bit of English as well. But maths was still my favorite subject. So I ended up studying that at university. The reason why I did that with management studies is because, as I said earlier, my aim in life was to run my own business at some point in the future. And that's exactly what I did. But then I did a master's that was actually in applied statistics. So more maths, stats applied in medicine, in financial modeling, in industry, etc. But then my MPhil was actually in history. So it was South Asian history and the connections with Britain. So things that happened, especially within the last couple of 100 years. And that was absolutely wonderful to do. And the reason why my university allowed me to do that when I undertook an interview with them was because of my knowledge of languages. So that's where that came in very, very handy, because I'd been able to change from the sciences, from maths and stats, etc., into the humanities. But the only reason they allowed me to do that is that they knew that I could gain access to primary sources. I could read things in Punjabi and Hindi, etc. Those sources would then allow me to make a very, very good dissertation based on actual accounts rather than translations. Gulzar Sahab, every day in Parliament is a different challenge. Being an MP is a very challenging role. It's a very full-on role. You are constantly coming up against different things day in, day out. Sometimes the challenges are local, wherein you're dealing with local constituents, individual queries and issues. Sometimes they've got problems and they're coming to you literally with tears streaming down their eyes that they are at their wits' end, they don't know where to go. So it's our job to be urgently helping them, whether it's with a housing situation, whether it's somebody's homeless or about to become homeless, whether it's issues around overcrowding, whether it's issues with their children's special educational needs. There's an array of things that they could have a problem with, so it's our job to help them. Sometimes also it is when you're in my role, when you're chairing the defence committee, there are lots and lots of reports to read, lots of information to take in, and then to take action on that. So that in itself is very challenging. There are several weeks in the year when you'd actually be out on visits. So whether it's visiting military bases around the UK or whether it's going abroad, You're meeting up with lots of stakeholders. That's very challenging. You have to be fully briefed about what the issues are. And then obviously there are parliamentary debates. I think that's what a lot of your viewers will be seeing, the green benches, and being able to construct those arguments to, at the end of the day, politics is a battle of ideas. So how you're able to put forward your viewpoint to win over the country, but also to win the argument in the process. Well, Gulzar Sahab, to become the first ever turban Sikh member of parliament, not just in the UK but across Europe, I know that was a watershed moment, and it made Punjabis very proud in particular, but I think everybody in the country. It was a collective achievement. The good people of Slough elected me for that role, so I'm very, very grateful to them. In fact, they've re-elected me, and I've now been serving them for the last 8.5 years, and this is my third term in office. I have made sure that I'm working very hard so that they do not feel let down by the level of service that I give them, whether that's on a local level, whether it's in Parliament. And I know that other people also have huge expectations, whether it's people that look like me in terms of the Sikh community, whether it's people of ethnic minority background, whether it's just fair-minded people who want to make sure that multiculturalism is leading to an enhancement of our democracy, wherein we can harness the full potential of people who come from diverse backgrounds. So it's important that I am able to give a good account of myself to make everybody proud. So that responsibility weighs heavily on my shoulders as well. And that's why I'll make sure that before going into the chamber that I have read up, I'm well researched, so that I can make a meaningful, positive, strong contribution on the floor of the House. Well, Slough is an incredible place. In fact, it is an economic powerhouse for the country. Slough has the second largest concentration of data centers anywhere in the world. So it's Virginia, USA, followed by Slough, UK. Based on GCSE and A-level results, just a couple of years ago, we were second in the entire country. So we've got very, very bright, talented young people. We are the youth capital of Britain. So that's to say that we've got the lowest average age of any town or city in terms of the number of young people that are coming in. There's a lot of vibrancy. More than 100 different languages spoken, so it's a very multi-faith, multi-ethnic community, and people live harmoniously side by side. The town itself goes on from strength to strength, and we've got the largest singly owned trading estate in the whole of Europe. We've got so much going for us. In fact, based on the official stats, Slough's number one in the entire country for gross value added per hour. So that's what I meant when I say economic powerhouse. Now, there are good things. So we've got the second largest number of startup businesses anywhere in the country, and that's in that small town of Slough. But then we're also faced with many issues, many problems. There are pockets of social deprivation. We've got issues with overcrowding in housing in certain areas. A lot of young people being priced out of housing. So that's why it's important that we are able to solve the housing crisis. We've got lots of other issues that need to be dealt with. So while there are things that we can be very, very positive about, we've got issues that need resolving, and those challenges that can only be overcome with the help of the government. So it's my job here in Parliament, and welcome to my parliamentary office here in Westminster. It's my job to make sure that as a Labour MP, I'm getting the maximum possible funding and resources for Slough from this Labour government. Well, there are many issues that young people face. Firstly, to make sure that they have the right level of skills. Many of them come from homes where if you're living in an overcrowded place, if housing is not of a decent quality, you're going to find it hard to concentrate on your studies. We've got issues with many families who are not able to provide for their children in the ways that they would like. So I very much welcome the government's introduction of free breakfast clubs for primary school children, the expansion of free school meals, which has benefited hundreds of thousands of young children around the country. That has been especially helpful for my Slough constituents, because then those young people can overcome those challenges at an early age and that we have more of a level playing field, so that everybody, when those young boys and girls are going into school, are going into college, that they are able to achieve their full potential. And I hope that they are able to achieve great things in life, but there's a lot of hard work that goes in. So I know that in particular for the Punjabi families, I know with Brit Punjabi, you'll be concentrating especially on the Punjabi community, and those within the Asian community, there's a huge emphasis on education. So that is something that I hope that young people will be able to get the full value of, so that they can achieve amazing things in life.
But you have achieved so many things in the parliament, but what is the biggest achievement in the parliament?
Because I think in Parliament, I've made lots and lots of speeches over the last nearly a decade, but I think there's one speech that actually resonated most with people, that had billions of views, and I was actually taken aback by how much it resonated with the wider public, was my Prime Minister's question to Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister, when I called him out on his use of derogatory and divisive and racist remarks, because I thought that was very important, that it might be the most powerful person in the country, but people need to be held accountable, because his usage of those divisive, disparaging remarks against Muslim women were a blight not just onto him but onto the entire country, and we can't allow such language to be normalized. And I think one of the reasons why it probably resonated a lot, whether it's with my Slough constituents or people across the globe, is because it was a man standing up for women's rights, it was a Sikh person standing up for the Muslim community, it was there were various strands coming in, so it was based on my own personal experiences of how I had also had to encounter racism when somebody tried to pull off my turban when I was in secondary school. And that's why I think the right for somebody to practice their faith, the right to wear what they want to wear, that is very, very important. So the freedom of religion and belief. And I think that's where lots of those various strands came in, along with the passion in which that question and that speech was delivered. So I'm very, very grateful to people who have shown their support, not just for that contribution in Parliament, but I have made not just dozens but hundreds of contributions in Parliament over the course of almost a decade. And I hope that people, while they might not agree with me on every single occasion, they know that that's coming from a good place, that I am doing my level best to work hard, to work with honesty, with integrity, and making sure that I am holding people to account, as well as serving people without fear or favour. The future is bright, I think, for our country, but especially for the Punjabi community, for ethnic minorities. I think that it is through sheer grit and determination, especially as our former generations, my grandparents' generations who came here in the 60s, my parents' generations, they worked really hard, from renting a place to buying their own place, buying a car. That the level of work that they had to undertake, and that was at a time when there was a lot of racism that they had to encounter, lots of difficulties that come from a different country, a different culture. So for those of us who are born and brought up in Britain, who are very proud to be British, it's a lot easier, I think, for us. There are still impediments and obstacles along the way, but I think it's important that we make a positive contribution to this, our country. And that's the way that we've got to be thinking about it, is that we should never lose our distinct identity, our distinct cultural heritage. It's important that we are able to have, as my parents wanted for me, the best of both worlds. And in fact, I think that actually enhances an individual. So you can be multilingual, you can be multicultural, and yet you can hold both things very dearly. So identity for me is very contextual, and I hope that your viewers will be able to understand that when I say that if I am amongst Punjabis. I'm proud to be a Punjabi. If I'm at the Gurdwara, I'm proud to be a Sikh. And if I'm in Slough, I'm proud of my town, of that association within my heritage and with my personal history. And if I'm watching the England team, I'm very proud to be English. If I'm watching the Olympics team, I'm very proud to be British. If I'm over in India, I'm very, very proud of that link with my heritage and my history. You know, that when I'm over in the Punjab, for example, not only do I go with my wife, with my children, the wider family, we take them to our ancestral village, to the ancestral farm. ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖੂਹ 'ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਨਹਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੋਟਰ 'ਤੇ ਬੰਬੀ 'ਤੇ all of that is wonderful. I think that actually creates memories for them, you know, when they're going to their ancestral village. So I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. I think you should be proud of that part of your history and heritage. But at the same time, we need to be making sure that we are contributing, we are integrating within the wider mainstream community, because we owe it to ourselves to give a good account of ourselves and also to do everything possible for community cohesion. That, I think, is key. It's not about assimilating. It's not about getting lost in this multitude of cultures. It's about integration. It's about being proud of who you are and your distinct identity, but at the same time, being proud of the wider community and being proud of our country as well. To be the first ever ethnic minority chair of the Defence Committee, I know that again was a watershed moment. In fact, when I was first elected onto the House of Commons Defence Committee back in 2020, first time round, I was only the second person ever from a black or Asian ethnic minority background to be elected onto that very influential, important, powerful House of Commons Defence Committee. So I think that again is a credit to fellow MPs, because to become chair of a select committee in Parliament, you have to be directly elected by MPs. So there are 650 MPs. So those 650 UK MPs, it's one member, one vote. So the Prime Minister's vote is as important as a newly elected member from a small party in opposition. Now, in order to become chair, you need to have the trust and confidence of these individuals who are very experienced. It's a very sophisticated electorate. There is a full-on election, and you have to gain the trust and confidence of well over 300 fellow MPs. So I'm very, very grateful to them for having bestowed their faith and trust in me. And that is also very important for me, because that will ensure that when I am conducting my duties as chair of the Defence Committee, I do so with integrity, and I do so to hold the government of the day to account. Even though it's my own party, it's a Labour government and I'm a Labour MP, but when I'm in the Defence Committee and amongst my fellow colleagues, those 11 members of the Defence Committee, they are there to work on a cross-party basis. They're there to support the work of the government to keep our country safe and secure, but we are also the government scrutineers in chief. So we will make sure that we ask all the difficult questions that need to be asked, so that everybody within the Ministry of Defence, within the ministerial team and further beyond are doing their jobs effectively. Well, look, there are lots of challenges for the Labour Party. We need to make sure that we are working to our core values, those bread and butter issues, to tackle the cost of living crisis, things that matter to people. So I'm very proud that we are investing tens of billions of pounds more every year into the National Health Service. In Slough, we've managed to get a £25 million investment for the building of a Slough Community Diagnostic Centre. We've got more than £50 million extra for our local Wexham Park Hospital. Those are the things that matter. In terms of education, the extra funding for free breakfast clubs for primary school children, the expansion of free school meals, the extra childcare provision that there is, that's what my Slough constituents want. They don't want the government to be sidetracked by other issues, and they don't really appreciate when we get into certain other issues that are not important to them. So that's what I think that needs to be done, and it's my job to be making sure that my voice is heard here on behalf of my Slough constituents to our Prime Minister, to our government, so that they are actually dealing with the issues that matter to people. And if we don't do our job effectively, then we will all be sorry as a country because we will have let in a hard right reform government, and that's not something that any of us want. So we need to win that battle of ideas. The way that we are going to win the trust and confidence of the British people is by making sure that we deal with the bread and butter issues. That is very, very important. We've got to have the best people in the best jobs to ensure that they are all discharging their duties effectively in Parliament, so that people realise that we have dealt with the major issues of the day, whether that's the National Health Service, whether that's growing our economy, which is the number one mission of the government, whether it's to deal with issues around immigration, which I know are a huge concern to many across the country, and all of the other matters pertaining to different constituencies. Our biggest challenge is always to juggle balls. There are lots and lots of things happening in Parliament. So whether it's my parliamentary duties to balance those up with the constituency Slough duties, whether it's then also my family, so my wife, my 2 young children, the wider extended family, parents, brothers, sisters, how do I make sure that that family and social life, that I discharge my duties there as well, to be a better human being, to be fighting the good fight. There are so many things that need to be done and not enough hours in the day. So I hope that I am able to juggle all of those various balls at the same time without letting one of them drop. So that is, I think, a huge challenge, especially for a Member of Parliament. Also, I hope that many of your viewers, especially young people, that they would be interested in a career in public life, in public service. Politics is one of those things, like media, it has a huge impact on our way of life. Every single thing that we do, directly or indirectly, is affected by politics, is affected by what happens here in Westminster. So I hope that they would want to serve their local community, whether it's as a councillor, whether it's in a voluntary service. I know a lot of people give freely of their time, a lot of young people, young and old, who help, whether it's in charities, in sports, in many other fields. But I hope that they will also be interested in becoming a councillor or even as an MP.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. बहुत थोड़ा शुक्रिया, बहुत मेहरबानी. It's been a pleasure to chat to you, and my very, very best wishes, Gulzar Sahab, to you and to Brit Punjabi.